I'm very easily bored as a human being. I don't like to brush my teeth, and I don't like to vacuum my house, and I don't like to sit in carpool line. But if you don't brush your teeth, they fall out. If you don't vacuum your house, the bugs come and carry it away. And if you don't sit in carpool line, they won't give you your children back. So you have to do all these things. And I play with imaginary people in my head. And it doesn't sound good, but I pretty much entertain.
You write while you're...
I tell myself stories.
Sure.
I wouldn't call it writing because it's very visual and it's playing. And I always have millions of them going on. And eventually, I've never sat down to write a book that I haven't thought about characters and elements of it for a minimum of 7 years.
Okay.
Some group of characters or some images will get, I mean, the only way I know how to describe it is to say they get internally loud. Right. And that's when I know I'm going to write it down. And I had an internally loud thing that ended up being in this book. In some ways, it started with the quilting. One of my main character, Laurel Hawthorne, is an art quilter. And it's not like traditional quilting. I'm a big fan of traditional quilting too, to be quite frank with you. But art quilting, you know, it uses fabric as paint. Sometimes, some people don't call themselves art quilters, they call themselves fabric artists. And I became aware of a Canadian folk artist of some note named Pamela Allen about 10 years ago, and I loved her stuff. And then about 7 years ago, she had sort of moved through some different phases, and she started working in fabric about 7 years ago. And when I saw her pieces, I knew I would write a book with an art quilter as the main character. And all of Laurel's art in the book is actually based on the work of Pamela Allen. It wasn't so much in a slavishly stealing way, but in a inspired. Yeah, I mean, she really writes a lot about, she doesn't write, but her pieces speak to women's roles, not just in just society, like traditional female roles versus non-traditional ones, but also women's roles in art. And her stuff just spoke really loudly to me. So thematically and in the kind of material she uses, it was definitely inspired by her work. The book starts when this ghost of a little drowned girl comes to this very tidy, very organized, everything neatly put away woman's house, and leads her out to her own body in the pool and basically wants her to find out what happened, which is a nice start for, I like a murder mystery, you know, I like a little bit of plot and everything. And that was one of the things I brain played with in Carpool Line. But when I knew I had a book was when I realized that ghost would open a door. And it was when the first thing she says is that's open a door for the family ghost, Uncle Marty. And there's an image in the book.
So it's when you found Uncle Marty that you really had the book, right? Well, that is the story, isn't it?
Yeah. Because, I mean, there are supernatural elements in the book, but they are logically explained. Like, you can either believe in Laurel's ghosts or Thalia, her sister's logic. They're both equally plausible. They have, you know, I was really careful to do that as a writer, but no matter what, whether you decide the ghosts are literal or metaphorical in the book, these are two sisters who are haunted. Clearly. I wrote a whole book and threw it away. I wrote a 120,000 word novel. Realized.
But you must have kept some of it.
No, I didn't keep a single sentence.
Oh no.
I kept the characters. I kept some images, but the first book was first person. So you know I didn't keep a single sentence because it was first person. Oh, wow. I kept the opening images. I kept the characters and their relationships to each other. The plot went away entirely. And some characters were huge in the first book, became very minor. And some characters who didn't exist at all entered the book. The first time I wrote the book, I think because of my grandmother and not wanting to let this book be as personal as it is, there was no Bet Clemens in the first draft. There was no Delop. We never went to Delop. Oh. You heard about Delop. There were stories like, you know, she would tell the story of Christmas and Uncle Poot's foot, but none of the characters in the book ever physically went to Delop, and the character of Bet Clemens didn't exist. You know, you have Laurel, who's this little suburban wife and mother, and oh wait, you're a suburban wife and mother, and you're worried people are going to think you're Laurel, so you have her being so darn sweet, I want to stuff her face in a boot full of chloroform and then, you know, throw her out like too many kittens. And then Thalia's this black box theater actor. Oh, wait, What did you used to do? That's right. You were a regional repertory black box theater actor. So you're worried people are going to think you're Thalia. And every time in the first draft Thalia would start to do something interesting, I would leave the scene. And then you would hear about what she had done later, but you never saw any of it. And one of the things I did in the second draft that was hard was I cut Thalia loose and let her do everything she wanted to do.
She was cut loose.
I know,
Did you
right?
enjoy that, though?
It was super fun.
Yeah.
Writing about Thalia is super fun. She makes stuff happen. And she's one of those characters where I haven't met anybody who had a neutral reaction to her. People really hate her or they really like her. I'm not interested in whether I like a person or not. I'm interested in if they're interesting.
Right.
Sometimes I didn't like her at all, but I was never not interested in seeing what she would do next.
Well, no, something was going to happen when Thalia showed
Oh
up.
yeah, when Thalia's in the room, something's gonna catch on fire.
Right.